This is Monastery Live. It is June 24th, 2018. As part of MacJack Studios, I am, as always, your gaming monk, Mildra. And as with me is the master of the flat pack, Flatmeister. And, and the giant head of the internet, Aaron Alexander.
How you doing, folks?
Joining us, the living stack of comic books, Doku.
Hey, Mildred, how's it going, guys?
Hey, you just made it, man.
Yeah, cutting it close. How you guys doing?
We're doing good. We're doing good. You came in just in time. But first, the Geek of the Week.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
which I have to do a bit of working around because
that idiot deleted that tweet.
No, she didn't. No, she didn't delete. She locked her account.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, she locked her account. Probably blocked some people as well. I don't know. I don't think I got blocked. I didn't say a damn thing, but still.
I didn't. I made fun of her, but that's about it.
Yeah, she fucked off back to her safe space.
Okay.
Welcome to the wonderful world of block bots.
Okay. Thank you, Archive, for being my friend.
Yay!
Because the internet never, ever, sorry, it never, ever.
Nice Captain Cummings impression there.
Actually, it was Jericho.
Oh.
Interested again.
Exactly. Yeah, Peter Fonda and that shitty ass restaurant over in Lexington is probably figuring that one out.
Okay. Let's see. Her first thing is saying, first, this is directly modeled on Gamergate, which ruined fucking lives. The perpetrators of Gamergate leveled up into actual fucking Nazis, mostly because y'all refused to listen to women who were trying to tell you what a threat they were.
Hey, Mildred, sorry to interrupt, but can you put that on the what you call the Discord? Because I want to have a look at this.
Ask any
because Gamergate fucking is responsible for the death of 6 million Jews.
Yeah, Gamergate's responsible for freaking Donald Trump. It's responsible for fucking hurricanes, earthquakes, Nazis,
volcanoes.
Volcanic eruptions. Oh god, sorry.
Yeah, Brexit.
Volcanoes. Don't forget the fucking volcanoes, dude.
Of course, the volcanoes.
That's complete fucking hellscape right there, you know?
The
Gamergate decided to shove its dick into the earth and fucking come fucking volcanic lava out the other side.
The forging of the One Ring to rule the world. The Gamergate was possible.
Oh my god.
Yeah. With the sort of logic from them that they believe that if Gamergate didn't exist, everybody would love the Blackhawks.
Oh god!
Hey, I like the Blackhawks.
I have to make a very somewhat tasteless joke. A somewhat tasteless joke, but so Mount Mordor, anybody? Just Gamergate shoving that fucking One Ring right into Mount Mordor, just watching that fucking salt lava explode out the other end.
Yeah, really. Yeah, but yeah, how about this? They blame Gamergate for making sure the Blues don't win. How's that?
No, that's not even a joke. That's the sad part.
Yeah.
I'm going to end it on this. They probably believe that Gamergate is the reason why it took 100 years for the Cubs to win a World Series. So,
damn, that's cold.
That's a little harsh. That's a little harsh.
Yeah. And by the way, why the fuck did they get swept by the goddamn Reds? Yeah, you have no problem against the Dodgers. You have no problem against the Cardinals, but you get swept by the goddamn Reds. God damn.
Anyway,
if you want to talk about the Red Sox, there's a few period jokes you could make there, but
not the Red Sox. The Red Sox are good.
I'm not saying the Reds. I'm just saying the Red Sox. That there's a few period jokes you could make there. I'm pretty sure there's some individuals in the LGBT community that would quite like some Red Sox. Fuck, I'm going to hell. I'm going to hell.
You're gonna be in good company, my friend.
They're all they're all Blue Jays fans anyway.
No.
You didn't even go with the fucking Royals. Jeez.
No.
Kansas City.
And I have to apologize in advance if Jeremy hears this, but everybody in hell is a Packers fan.
Hey, I'm a Saints fan, so I can't really speak.
Well, that's okay. 8-win season.
We had one good season.
Yep.
That and Caps.
Anyway,
Stanley Cup, motherfucker.
Getting back to the matter.
Yeah, sports ball sometime later. Like next century.
As somebody who has actual PTSD caused by tabletop harassment and has spent thousands of dollars on therapy and medication, this shit is not fucking funny.
Oh,
that comment is not fucking funny. I mean, come on.
That comment gave me PTSD because of how stupid it is.
Yeah, really. It's like, you got a guy. That's like an insult to guys that actually had some wartime experiences or had some.
I mean,
really,
some of the. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, they got home invader, some garbage like that. That's real PTSD. You're getting PTSD because people are calling you out on your bullshit. What is?
Mildred already fucking knows. I have some mild fucking PTSD, and it's like, motherfucker, you're gonna tell me you have PTSD because somebody blew up your fucking Predator tank or told me that your fictional Dark Elf character got raped in the ass? Go fuck yourself.
Oh, by the way, this person thinks that it's funny to their Twitter banner has Godzilla eating a train saying, "I'm in your hobby, destroying your games."
Yeah, I saw that.
Holy shit, Mildred, you just gave me a brilliant idea. We need to come up with a new form of post-traumatic stress disorder that is specifically revolves around Twitter and Facebook. If we're gonna have cyberbullying, we need like cyber post-traumatic stress disorder.
And
of
course,
something new.
A blog that she hasn't up that she.
We'll just call it the Sarkeesian complex.
And yeah, we'll go with that because we can't call it the Sarkeesian effect because that name's already taken.
Yeah, that's why I say Sarkeesian.
She'll probably demand some shekels from royalties for the use of that.
Well,
you better trademark that shit first.
If anybody's demanding shekels from me being funnier than them, all I have to say is "fuck you, pay me."
That's right. Oh, you got a fire? Fuck you, pay me.
I was gonna say, it reminds me of that meme of the woman claiming that she got triggered or she got PTSD from Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
Wait a minute, are you talking about the one with the fucking veil face with the stupid ass problem glasses with the pursed lips? And
yeah,
shit?
the problem glasses.
Oh
yeah, that's the one. That's
Shit.
the meme. But I was gonna say, previously you were saying about people serving in the military. Like some of the stories I've heard Rolt say on the Stream of Corruption, like some of his war stories. And he's a tough ass cookie, isn't he? Rolt.
He is the embodiment of anger.
He's been through things that many of us would curl up in a ball in a corner of a room or something and be found rocking back and forth. He has just survived so much. And
I've told him a few times that I did a double take when he told me about the incident with the thing, where
I think I actually know what you're talking about, and
the thing.
holy shit, that's no joke.
They're in a barracks in, I think it was Alaska, and because people are paranoid to the point where there are signs everywhere saying your bunkmate is not plotting against you, and they get sent a handful of movies for off time and all that, and one of them happened to be The Thing.
Oh, John Carpenter's the thing. That's cruel.
I heard that because like you got people who are ridiculously paranoid, and you send them a movie about paranoia.
Not a good combination.
That's the very definition of triggered there. Oh,
yeah,
it's a good movie though.
Yes.
Yeah, it is a good movie, but like I said, I bet you they were checking the bunks for the checking the armory for the goddamn flamethrowers.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, it's a good movie as long as you make sure the armory is locked up.
Yeah, good.
Oh, the prequel, like, God.
Well, the prequel sucked.
Oh, why did they use CGI?
It was meh.
Yeah.
All I remember from
the prequel
is Chuck making fun of it by saying, "Hans, look, it's the Legoris."
I mean, I like how they led into the first movie right at the end.
Yeah,
but
just trying to shoot the dog and shit.
Yeah, that was good. Everything else was garbage. Although I will say the CGI in the spaceship was actually pretty well done.
Yeah,
I'll give them credit I'll give them credit where credit is due. That was well done, but everything else, shit.
Your typical post 1997 overly CGI tripe. Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, I was half expecting towards the end when what's her face is fucking crawling through the ventilation ducts. I just wanted to see Jabba the Hutt bust out and just waka do do solo. Because that would have been good. That would have been
cameo appearance by Jabba the Hutt.
Okay.
The real thing.
Yeah. Oh, but by the way, what does it surprise you at all if the woman who claims to have gotten harassed from Tabletop has her blog is all about how not to sell games to women as if she's a fucking authority on that, and it's the most terrible fucking blog I've seen. That's worse than mine. At least I'll try to have some degree of visual flair with my shit.
Well, basically, read everything that's in if you're making a tabletop game, read everything in that blog and do the opposite.
Can I just start a blog about why bad Warhammer 40,000 miniature paint jobs are sexual harassment? I feel like BuzzFeed would actually fucking hire me.
Then your fucking paints.
Seriously, I feel like BuzzFeed would hire me for writing an entire series about that.
Well, Mary Sue might. I mean, after all, they hired Sandy Beaches.
There's a really funny response to this resting witch face. Someone said, "Weird, I had to get hit by a sports car running a red light, crushing my leg, breaking my shoulder, and ripping off most of my skin to get a smidge of PTSD. You got it sitting in an air-conditioned room when your gender-fluid elf drowned in a swamp."
Oh my god!
Oh my god, that's amazing.
Yeah,
Jalapeno Goodberry.
Oh my god! Gender fluid. Luckily that does not exist.
So when I decided I was going to use one of my cover IDs and put up a bit of what I've been doing with the Second City story on Wednesdays on one of those sort of forums, and somebody accused me of microaggressions because of the time that.
Oh goodness!
Early on in the campaign, they ended up having to use the mass battle rules, and everybody got their shit kicked in. All but one person was unconscious.
Did they have a penis?
Does not fuck around, and apparently that's not allowed. So I said, you know what? So I'm going to do. I am proud of the fact that I do not do that sort of shit, and it's also the reason why I'm proud that I am not somebody who got into the hobby by watching Critical Role every week or some shit.
Critical Role. Oh my god!
I got someone that I work that up, didn't you?
I got someone that I work with that pretty much swears by fucking Critical Role.
Yeah, and you can always I guarantee you. I have not met this person, but I guarantee you, they haven't played a single game in their life.
Actually, she has. She has played a couple of them. I got a buddy of mine who vouches for her. The only problem with her is, for some reason, she doesn't like me. I don't know what her problem is.
Okay, you know what? I'm pretty sure that I can sum this up real quick. If you have an individual like that, and this is coming from someone who's never really played that much D&D, because I never had anybody to play it with.
Yeah, that's the same for me. I understand that shit.
But when you have individuals that are sitting around saying, "Oh, well, I love D&D, or I love Warhammer, or I love Magic the Gathering," and they start rattling off the names of fucking YouTubers, you know they're doing it.
She's a phony.
Yeah. You know they're doing it because, well, apparently now it's the cool thing to do.
They want the cool points.
Trendy.
This is the thing. It's like the Big Bang Theory syndrome. They just watched a couple of fucking episodes of Big Bang Theory. They get in, and they just read up on some geeky shit and say, "Ooh, I'm a nerd." That's probably why these fucking blue hairs got into our shit in the first place.
Yeah, as your boy Zach would say, they're fake geeks. You were never a fucking fan of it in the first place, and the only reason you're a fan of it now is because you're using it as a sounding board because it's fucking hip and trendy. Like, get the fuck out here.
And because a bunch of them couldn't make it in a modeling career.
Yeah, and the problem here is most of these motherfuckers are trying to push the ones not being pretenders out. It's like, man, you just come into the party trying to take it over and throwing us out.
Wait, it's the same people. It's the same people that 20 years ago spit on us because we liked fucking comics, Magic the Gathering, Warhammer 40K, video games.
Oh, you goddamn right.
Yeah, they spit on us then, and now they're fucking spitting on us now.
One of my fondest stories when it comes to that sort of bullshit happened quite some time ago. When I remember I was in high school, and one of the and some jock decided that he was going to try and push us around. What he didn't know is that I had at that point started taking some stuff in self-defense, and he just had this smug look, like, what are you gonna do, hit me? He was like, no, I promised I would not hit anyone. But technically speaking, grappling is not hitting, and you need a little protein in your diet.
Oh, I know exactly what you mean. One of my favorite stories is I had one dude who was being a fucking jackass because I like Warhammer, I like Magic the Gathering, I like comics. I also happen to like football. So when we got to high school, 9th grade, I joined the football team. And he happened to be on the opposing team when we were doing practice. So I decided, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just gonna tackle the ever-living shit out of this motherfucker. So satisfying.
Mm-hmm.
Laid that motherfucker down on his ass.
Yeah, I bet you he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, sir. I didn't know you did that shit. I ain't gonna do that shit."
He was a punk to begin with, but it just...
Well,
yeah, it's one of those things where I just kind of wanted to get it out of my system.
I will make a bit of a statement that people like that and the SJW cultists have one defining thing in common. And that is what I've referred to in the past as odds-based strength. When they have the advantage, the high ground, they believe that they are the toughest motherfuckers on the planet.
Yeah, well, someone bigger and better comes around that knows their tricks.
They need the hate mob. They have to have that hate mob backing them up, because if you single any one of them out individually, they ain't shit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but what if? Yeah, but then again, if you could probably take them all out all at once, then they'll just run like a bunch of fucking rats.
I will say that the gif of the Antifa guy who tried to throw a can of pepper spray back and got shot in the dick.
Oh my god, Razor Fist was. I think Razor Fist was playing that on a loop for weeks because I think that happened in fucking Phoenix. And as you know, Razor Fist is a native of Phoenix, so I bet you he was laughing his ass off for a full week.
That rubber bullet is just trying to remind you that there's only two genders.
Yeah, all the soy in the world is not going to change that.
But now, as far as this whole D&D gate thing, I first started hearing about it when some of the plebs over at the Hyper RPG Discord were giving strong reactions over it. So I decided to do a bit of digging. And what I found two things. One was Jeremy Crawford virtue signaling, which didn't surprise me at all, because Jeremy Crawford, for those who don't know, is the writer of the Player's Handbook for 5th edition, which I've already tracked. We'll track again later this year. He is also, but I know him more for being the principal writer of Blue Rose, one of the most overrated tabletop settings I have ever encountered.
Oh,
that is one of those patient zeros of the soy.
Yeah, pretty much bona fide ham and egger.
And after that, then it came to people taking things out of context, like somebody asking, "What's your favorite gate in D&D?" And then that got taken out of context, and everything went down from there.
Yeah,
this whole thing is bait, and it's not even fishing season yet.
Yeah. Hey, is this the guy that's trying to trademark the fucking hashtag?
No, I couldn't figure out who that was. And whoever was trying to do that, you are an idiot and know nothing about trademark law.
Exactly. He doesn't know shit. And doesn't trademark take months to get cleared and shit?
He was bragging about having spent several $100s on trademarking.
Trademark does not cost that little. It actually is well into the thousands, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is.
From what I understand, it depends on what you're trademarking. But the fact is that you still have to go through a mountain of paperwork in order to actually get it.
You got to go through red tape upon red tape upon red tape, and not only that, if they find out it's a frivolous trademark, they're gonna toss it out the fucking window.
Yeah, and even if you get it, it's not a case of all that you get is the right to use that hashtag in advertisements. That's it. You're not getting a penny every time somebody puts that in their tweets.
Yeah, it's not the fucking swear jar.
Or Zane's bad pun jar, or the ashes of difficult customers.
Yeah.
Well, the thing about trademark that you have to realize is it's unique to your intellectual property, and it's not something where you can say like, oh, it's a monk or a mage or a wizard or this or that. It's unique specifically to your story. It's not the same thing as a copyright or a first to file. So people conflate trademark with copyright, and they don't work the same way.
Yeah, really. And I'm surprised you didn't notice, because copyright's actually a little easier to get. It's also cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, under current law, if you have an intellectual property, like say you're writing a story or a book, and I'm talking from personal experience because I am writing a book. If you have a unique intellectual property and you're not legitimately beyond a shadow of a doubt plagiarizing something, you can get first to file copyright law, and it doesn't cost you a fucking penny. It's a standing law.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah. Go ahead. Keep
Trademarks completely fucking different.
Because I just found the link.
Yeah, trademark is completely fucking different. You need a company, you need a product, you need to have something that is unique to whatever service or product you're providing. It is not the same thing as a copyright.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of people get confused about, because they are not the same thing.
Yeah. I placed the link in the Discord.
Oh God, not him.
Yeah, that's the one who placed the quote unquote trademark. That soy ass freak.
Daniel Fox. He's even pulling the shark boy, the shark mouth soy boy face.
Yeah. I responded to that tweet with the cartoon soy mouth with the yeah.
But yeah, I know about him. He's got me blocked.
I don't know. I haven't heard about that hammer nigger, but hey, my post got fucking 92 likes. That's the most I've ever gotten, I guess.
Oh my God, he said, imagine the amount of soy someone has to consume to spend $300 so someone can't say a certain word.
Yeah, I'm seeing his soy face. What a fucking dragon dildo in his mouth.
RPG Pundit has stated that the response to this whole D&D Gate thing is mostly them trying to take shots at him.
Mm. Yeah, and also it's like I said earlier. All of this, they're trying to create controversy. They're trying to ratchet up the fucking outrage machine up on the run up to Gen Con because Saint Anita's gonna be there. And they figure they think by spinning the wheel of outrage enough times, it'll rally the fucking blue hairs to come see her.
Oh,
yep.
And guess who? And the problem here is, guess who else is gonna be there?
Yeah, Jeremy. So that might be interesting. And
what quartering, Jeremy?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, aka one of the two good people in Wisconsin.
Wait, are we talking Geeks and Gamers, Jeremy, or the
Quartering Jeremy?
Yeah,
Geeks and Gamers, Jeremy.
That'll be fun.
I think he's somewhere in the South, actually. You could tell because he's got a bit of a Southern accent. Geeks and Gamers, Jeremy.
Well, again, I've got no beef with the South, but since I'm a Minnesota guy, I have to take the opportunity to bury Wisconsin every chance I get. both them and Iowa, but then again, everybody buries Iowa. Iowa is short for idiots out walking around.
Well, don't worry. Well, look at it this way: they're both not Illinois.
In the chat, Caillou Crimson says, "Remember when Candy Crush tried to trademark and place a copyright on the word candy?"
They were trying to trademark Saga.
Oh yeah, that's it. Saga, yeah.
Saga.
They ended up picking a fight with the team behind the Banner Saga, which they lost. I think
they copyright Saga. I mean, will that give some beef with Square Enix for that shit?
You'd get some beef with everybody. What do you think everybody celebrated when EA slapped the shit out of Tim Langdell? It was the one time in history where EA was the good guy.
Yeah, no shit.
Tim Langdell claimed to have the trademark for the word edge and was suing everybody who used that name. And then he picked a fight with EA over Mirror's Edge and got his ass kicked.
You have to work really hard to be even more hated than EA.
And there's also, but there, of course, when we're talking about trademarking, there's one legendary example that cannot be unmentioned, and that is the fall of Fine.
Fine Brothers.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Trying to trademark React.
One of the most epic backfires in internet history.
I think they lost over their subscriber count just plummeted after that, and they just fucked off after the fact. I've barely heard of them.
Mm.
Yeah, really. I haven't even heard of them before they do that shit. And all of a sudden they just pissed all over their reputation, and their sub count went nosedive.
I don't know, the PUBG and Fortnite thing.
Oh,
that might take the cake.
Well, the thing is, I've just recently recorded. I recently recorded a video about this. Bethesda are suing Warner Brothers for a blatant Fallout Shelter ripoff.
Well, with that one, I do.
Oh.
With that,
Bethesda have the grounds to sue them.
I looked at both of them, and there is very little in the way of difference aside from a few assets.
Well, the thing is, Behaviour Interactive, they helped work on Fallout Shelter, right?
Mm-hmm.
They then were hired by Warner Brothers to work on a mobile version of Westworld. It plays exactly the same as Fallout Shelter, right? So Behaviour Interactive, sorry, they have been found to have used copyrighted code from Bethesda. They've used that in the development of the Westworld mobile game.
On the phone. If they develop two... Go ahead, Flat. Finish
I was going to say, Bethesda have... This is a definite kicker, right? Here's more evidence to back up Bethesda's claim, is that Bethesda have found a bug in the Westworld game that was present in the early version of Fallout Shelter before they patched it out. So it proves that is their copyrighted game code that Behaviour Interactive have ran off with and basically made this Westworld game on the cheap because most of the work is done for them. They've just reskinned it with a Wild West, Westworld skin, basically.
Okay, so let me get this straight. This developer created the game for Bethesda, and now they're doing the same thing for who is it? EA?
For Warner
Brothers.
Yeah.
So if that's true, then aren't they supposed to hold the fucking copyright?
Not necessarily.
But Bethesda, they helped work on Fallout Shelter, so I think Bethesda did have a studio helping work on the game.
Here's what I'm thinking.
No, it depends on who owns the source code. Because if they're using the same source code, then they could potentially be in trouble. But you would have to prove that they're using the same source code. It's kind of the same.
If that bug is there, then that would be a strong case in Bethesda's favor.
Well, it's a strange argument because when you start delving into that kind of argument, you're also I know, Mildred, I talked to you about this. When it's like Star Citizen when it comes down to CryEngine. Yeah, you're using the engine, but you've essentially rebuilt and repurposed the whole thing to the point where it's not even recognizable from the original engine. So you really do have to look at the source code and look at what the agreement was. So I can see either side winning, but you're going to have to look at the source code. There's no real way to just say, and there's a glitch or this piece of coding or this piece of coding is the same, you're going to have to prove your case.
Well, that's the thing. Like I said,
not easy to prove.
Well, that's the thing. Like I said, that the fact that Bethesda managed to find the same bug in the Westworld game that was present in the Fallout Shelter, the early version of Fallout Shelter before it was patched. I mean, it seems like Fallout Shelter came out summer of 2015. It was about the E3 where they announced Fallout 4, and they said, "Oh, Fallout Shelter is this other mobile game. It's free right now." Yeah, and that was before Westworld was even announced or even on TV.
Yeah, you're gonna have to prove, first off, source code, and second off, you're gonna have to prove intent. And that's very pricey on the corporate level, especially. And it seems like a waste of money to me. If it were me, screw it. Why would you waste the money trying to prove something that's 50-50? They could change the source code up enough that you couldn't prove it in a court of law.
We'll see how it turns out. And Caillou is saying, send the case over to Scotland. Whoever bribes the judge more with booty.
Well, or you can bait one side to teach their a pug the Roman salute.
I mean, unless you're just trying to really prove a point, there's no reason to pursue it. It's a stupid thing to pursue, as far as I'm concerned.
They're looking for a trial, a jury trial as well.
And what's a jury kind of do? You're gonna get a jury of fucking coders
in a civil suit? Come on!
I would have thought that they would settle this out, out of court. Just
you would think.
Why would?
I don't know. The whole thing sounds absurd and ridiculous, but coming from even mediocre sized studios, they love to do this kind of crap. And to this day, I don't know why. Like, why would you waste your money? Spend the money making games. Like, it's going to be a lot more beneficial in the long run.
Yeah, wasting all your money on fucking litigation. That is not a good look, especially since Todd, with all that money you're spending on litigation, how about using that to spruce up freaking Fallout 76? Because again, no one wants to play fucking Grief Fest with nukes.
Yeah. Spend the money doing your actual job. Like, create something good. Like, who cares if someone's using source code or something like that? Like, okay, somebody's using your source code or your engine. At a bare minimum, ask them to give you a little bit of credibility. Like, throw your name in there in the frickin' credits or something and call it a day. But produce games. Like, do something good. Produce a product that people actually want to consume.
Yeah.
Why are you spending your time wasting all of this money on, I mean, shit, CryEngine and frickin' Star Citizen. They rebuilt the whole thing from the ground up, but they did this series on YouTube called Bug Smashers, so we're gonna sue them. Just petition them for their info, get your info, build your engine up, and then call it a fucking day.
Yeah.
And then turn around and sell it so that other game producers can produce good games.
Yeah, Bethesda.
Who fucking cares?
Yeah, Bethesda. And not only that, it's like Bethesda's about to have some serious competition in fucking Warhorse, because that Kingdom Come game, they're releasing their DLC. I wouldn't be surprised if about 2 or 3 years down the road, especially around the time if they get around to fucking releasing Elder Scrolls 6, they might have another game that might compete with them.
Yeah, and and that's the thing, they can't cooperate with other developers. And that's what really irritates me about the gaming industry as it stands today, is no one wants to cooperate with one another. They're all so busy trying to basically use the EA model where this is all ours and we're not going to share with anybody. You know, they're the cool kid on the block that is hoarding all the fucking soccer balls and the kickballs and the footballs. They don't want to share with anyone. Well, everything else is going to crap.
Yeah, they're one up. Yeah, they're trying to one up the other guy. They even one up each other in the company. You know, hey Doku, have you ever watched Razorfish video on the Morrowind that never was, or some shit like that?
I haven't seen it, but I've heard people mention it. But I know the premise of it, and he's correct in the premise on a general scale, and that's kind of why I bring it up. Is you have a lot, and this is not unique to gaming. We've seen it in comic books, we've seen it in gaming, we've seen it in the movie industry. We've seen it in every form of pop culture you can possibly find. Exactly. There is this level of gatekeeping that no one wants to cooperate with each other. No one wants to collab. No one wants to do anything. It's just
they just want to step on your fucking head and get rid of it. And I think, again, they just want to step on your toes. Screw you. I'm better than you. Get the fuck out. I think that's why you have people like Todd Howard get to the top of freaking Bethesda to begin with. It's not because he's anywhere decent. It's because of politics.
Yeah, everybody wants a monopoly. And they want a monopoly for 3 fucking reasons. It's either A, I have an intellectual property that I don't want to share. Second reason, politics. And the third reason is I have a monopoly and I'm going to use that to try to force other people out of the industry and gatekeep. Those are the 3 reasons, or a combination thereof. Yeah, it's not helpful for the industry. It kills industries.
Yeah, that's why I have
look at what happened to TSR.
Yeah, that's why I have absolutely no respect for fucking Todd Howard. Okay, that guy's a fucking hobbit. Okay, it's not only that, it's not the hobbit in size, but it's that Napoleon complex the guy has. You know, it's like he feels inferior out of everybody. It's like out of everybody in that probably Elder Scrolls team, he probably felt like he was like the inferior guy. He was probably in the fucking kids table. It's just when he saw an opportunity, to get rid of the ones that were better than him, he took it and it turned to shit. But it fucking feathered his nest pretty good.
Well, it's the reason I hate EA. EA doesn't do anything innovative. They don't really create anything unique, or I can't even say they really publish games. They're just a publisher. They take somebody else's intellectual property, they use their financial weight to finance it, and they milk it for all it's worth, and then once it dies, it's dead.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if I was Yosef Fares, I would just say, you better keep that way out IP pretty fucking close, because EA is going to find a way to steal it from you if they haven't already.
And the thing is, that's not unique to EA. I mean, you see that within almost every aspect of anything you could consider creative, be it video games, cards, Wizards of the Coast, Dungeons and Dragons, Magic the Gathering. Pick a book. I mean, even Game of Thrones, as much as I love it, do you think George R.R. Martin has any actual claim to the intellectual property at this point in time?
Yeah, and that's the thing, especially with Western properties now. This is why I think most media in the West, it's starting to crash, because it's avarice, politics, gatekeeping. It's all three of them. It's like, and they want to blame the fucking Japanese and blame their fucking fans for killing it. No, they didn't screw you, buddy. You screwed you.
Yeah, they screwed themselves. It's the industry practices. Why do you think that? I mean, shit. My Hero Macadamia is one of the most successful comic books by comparison to, Spider-Man or Iceman, or I'm not even going to bring up the SJW comic books like Squirrel Girl or fucking America Chavez, because those are dead. But we have My Hero Macadamia, which is a fucking parody of a manga that is, to this day, probably one of the more successful animes of all time. And it's mimicking, not mocking, but mimicking American comic superheroes. And that story is better than anything I've seen coming out of Marvel Comics. And it's coming from a manga. Great story, don't get me wrong, I like it. But it's kind of a kick in the pants when you realize manga is doing superheroes better than Marvel or DC can do it.
Jesus Christ. It's like, what was I about to say here? Lost my train of thought here. Oh, crap.
Well, I suppose the bottom line, because we went way off the rails there, is that this whole D&D gate thing is glorified bait. Like they were hoping that they could get some sort of controversy so that they could say, "Oh, gamers are not your audience," and nobody's biting. And in fact, it's being openly mocked. And it ultimately says that they so need to be outraged that they will try and create a dragon so that they can be the dragon slayer.
Yeah, they're like I said earlier, they're spinning that outrage wheel until the run up with Gen Con, because Saint Anita is going to be there, and they figure if they get enough outrage, the more outrage they get, the more blue hairs showed up.
Well, I get asked, do you think, and give me your opinion, but do you think that they intentionally try to spin up this outrage especially when events like Gen Con start popping up? Yep. Just because they see the industry kind of slowly dying due to the fact that there's so much gatekeeping and just normal fans who just like things like D&D or Magic the Gathering or Warhammer are turned off because of the way the community is acting, so they have to drum up the outrage in order to keep the franchise going.
Yeah,
I don't think it's a case of that. What I think it's a case of is people thinking that they have to do that in order to still be in the in-group.
Yeah.
Actually, that probably makes more sense.
Yeah, and also it's another way to stave off another Ethan Van Sciver or another diversity encounter from throwing their shit out there and blowing them the fuck out.
Well, you know what? I propose that we all make our own tabletop RPG. And
way ahead of you, Doku.
Let's just usurp D&D and say fuck it. We'll make our own company.
We're not going to usurp D&D, but because it's far too entrenched.
Yeah.
But for my part, what I can do is highlight games outside of it, and that's what I've done with that's what I've tried to do with my channel, and I intend on continuing doing that.
Yeah, there's what needs to be done. Start bringing up the undermarket. You know what I mean?
Because I will I will say I've said this many times over the years, and I will say it again. Anytime somebody wants to run D&D, I will usually tell them, no, we're not running that. We're running 13th Age, or we're running Fantasy Craft. And in the process of that, they end up having much more fun, because both of those games are far superior. I said this in a different. I think I said this last week, but I get the distinct feeling that we're going to see a D&D 6th edition that's going to try and mirror what Pathfinder 2nd seems to be trying to do. I think that they're going to try and announce that at Gen Con next year or something, because the Pathfinder playtest isn't going in that overly simplistic route.
So Pathfinder's going sort of more complex and less normie friendly, basically.
I've been covering the design previews, and what they've been going with is the whole notion of giving the players options. They are having a bit of a life path system, but everything is that this is a foundation that you can build on as you progress. They're not doing the whole thing of just reskin this. No. If they were going, because they're still doing their same skill system, they're still doing their same feat system. They're revamping proficiency to work with all of that, including saving throws. They're redoing, not taking away, is the best way to put it. And when it's giving me more of a Fantasy Crafts vibe than a D&D 5th edition vibe, and I think that can only be a positive in my humble opinion. They release these previews of the playtest every Monday and Friday, and I've been covering most of them, except for the ones that talk about stuff like organized play, because I don't care about that.
That organized play. That sounds like the whole playdate concept. There's also that's not meant to be fucking organized.
Well, organized play has been kind of a thing for quite a while. I mean, going all the way back to the RPGA from back in the day. But 2 weeks ago, but I do think that, and hell, not to toot my own horn or anything, but for the last almost 3 years, when I've done the stuff with RVT on Wednesdays, I have only covered D&D once, and I was using D&D 4th edition when I did it, the one everybody hates but me. But there was the Common Rider RPG. There was Numenera, which got accused of being sexist and racist.
That's pretty much an endorsement right there.
Numenera, for what it's worth, is a kind of spiritual successor to Planescape, and it's done by Monty Cook, who's gotten over his Ivory Tower bullshit. And The Strange is basically taking concepts of Numenera of exploring the weirdness and moving it over to dimension hopping. If you remember Sliders, it's not too far off from that, except you're not dealing with just alternate Earths. There are alternate Earths, but each one of them has each world that you can visit has its own rules. It got accused of racism because of one world called the Thunder Plains was basically pondering the question of what if the white man never came to America?
Isn't that their dream scenario?
Yeah, but it.
All right, you know what? Screw it. Mildred, you're going to help me with this. I'm going to make a D&D scenario where everybody has to play as a female orc, and the enemy, it's going to be survival horror, and The two major enemies are going to be a self-aware dildo made out of mithril, and a fucking adamantium, and an adamantium gauntlet that wants to finger the fuck out of you.
As horrifying as that is, Drinking Quest beat you to it.
Damn it, Simpsons did it.
That's gonna.
Simpsons did it.
Oh my god! You know, Doku, that's gonna. I bet you in the first 2 minutes they're gonna be throwing down the fucking X card.
Oh, I would love to see the Mary Sue and Bleeding Cool article about that. It would be amazing. They would have a field day with that one.
I'd imagine that Mary Sue or the like is probably butt mad about the fact that White Wolf is working for Mephidius, who did not tone down John Carter, or tone down Conan, Conan.
Oh, I didn't even tell the Mary Sue that the fucking adamantium gauntlet goes full solar power and just, you know, kind of cauterizes a few things.
It's good for the environment.
Yeah, but anyway,
it's environmentally friendly.
Speaking of which, now, as you guys know, a couple weeks ago I talked about how White Wolf is teaming up with Mephidius to create a new World of Darkness. They're referring to it as World of Darkness 4.0.
Oh boy.
And
Boy.
This started with This is starting with a new Vampire the Masquerade, which I do have the playtest documents for. I just haven't looked over it thoroughly. But the incidents that happened a while back with Channel Awesome got me thinking about this incident and why this might have been one of the reasons why White Wolf has decided to go off on their own. Because Onyx Path, when White Wolf got tossed around between companies, was handling the production of the RPG books.
Oh, wait, hold on. Is the protagonist named Bella? Because
no,
I think the protagonist should be named Bella.
No.
Oh god, no. We will not have Twilight crap on freaking RPG.
But Edward.
No.
Wants that.
No sparkly vampires. They'll get kicked in the nuts.
2, the only people who ever tried to attempt making that made it as a joke. 3, I have too much dignity to do it. And 4, you deserve a slap.
You can get a slap for that.
See, I have imagined a Twilight remastering where instead of the vampires sparkling, they all have dragon breath cannons that come out of their fucking noses.
Oh god, well, yeah, that's one hell of a cold.
I was gonna say oral, but all right.
And anyway, the whole thing that happened with Channel Awesome a few months back reminded me of a similar incident from last year. This was back in June, and it caused Sponsored by Nobody to do the episode A History of Exposure, because I've mentioned this before, but Exalted is one of my favorite tabletop RPGs of all time, just because of the larger-than-life capacity that you can have and how it embraces when everybody was trying to desperately avoid taking cues from anime. Exalted wore that on its sleeve and was proud of that. But we're going to be going over some of the things that were said on Twitter and elsewhere about the whole thing. Onyx Path.
The second you said Twitter. Ugh.
Yeah, I know. But hear me out on this, because it's going to get. We're gonna bring up some juicy shit.
Yeah, I saw the little preview pic of it. It looks like someone ain't getting their money either. You know that's not gonna end well.
Mm-hmm. Okay. On April 1st, Onyx Path Publishing publicly let go Holden Shearer and John Mork as lead developers for Exalted 3rd Edition after 4 years of work on the company's highest-selling product. What followed was a slow unearthing by several former staff members of a myriad of shady business practices, unprofessional management behavior, and a breadth of unpaid work under impossible circumstances. Onyx Path Publishing, headed by Richard Thomas, has always held it as a public mark of honor that among the tabletop role-playing game community, they are the most well-paying and non-toxic work environment. This album and its included screen caps serve as a primer to a culture of abuse and bad business practices that Onyx Path has been operating under in how it treats its freelancers, writers, developers, and artists. Before you back one of Onyx Path's many Kickstarters or make a purchase of one of their products from Drive-Thru-RPG, take the time to consider if the product you are buying was the result of unpaid work and unethical business practices, or if your patronage will ever reach the content producers themselves instead of funneling into management. And hang on, let me see if I can do. I'm going to try and do a bit of screen share here.
Good. Yeah. According to who?
I'm looking at the imager here, right here. Oof. Oh my word. God damn. You know what? You know, if you're putting up a Kickstarter, first job number one is if you got people that are not getting paid, pay these motherfuckers.
Yeah. Yeah. The industry is so fucked.
All right, here we go. Now featured in the screen cap, Holden Shearer, former lead developer of Exalted 3rd Edition, John Mork, also former lead developer, and Lucy Darling, former writer. First up with saying Holden Shearer. We were still hot off the Ink Monkeys era when we did like 150,000 words of work for free. We were dumb, lol. I'm saying I can see that happening all too easily, but still, how is this a thing that's acceptable? You're working at your job for a while, and that's all that matters. Then the glow wears off, and you notice stuff. Stuff like, I still haven't heard anything about the Auriculum edition I was promised, and really don't expect to at this point.
Hey, Mildred, can you rewind for a second, just so I can make sure I heard this correctly? Did you say they were dumb, lol?
Yeah. I'm reading off of the tweets.
150,000 words of work for free. Jesus Christ. David, ask for some front money, would you?
David Hill chimes in saying, a fan gave me his spare copy of Requiem 2nd Edition. I flat out will not buy something I worked on. Basically, contractual negligence, part one. Holden and David Hill are entitled to a copy of the books they produced in Onyx Path. It is part of their contract. After asking repeatedly, these contracts were outright refused because it would cost Rich T, the CEO, money out of pocket.
Bullshit. If you're running the fucking copies, I mean, what you do is you gotta give them the first fucking copy hot off the press. Anybody that worked on that shit. What is this guy thinking? You got plenty. You got probably.
He's not thinking. He's not thinking, and don't give him the credit to assume that he actually is thinking. Because
now let me take a moment to cover my ass for 1 second. All of this is essentially one side of the story, since I don't have Rich's side of it, since I think he's got me blocked. Don't know why.
Yeah, that means you probably ain't gonna get his side.
However, so keep that in mind that I'm only getting one half of this. But anyway, David Hill continues in saying, that said, after 10 years and literally millions of words in print, I never hit 5 cents for writing. That's what low rate indies start at. That is shocking. It's cool, though. They've got more hapless freelancers towing the company line, saying it's actually fine and my story is not true. It's the author's comps thing that burns me. There's no budget for a book for the authors out of a $500,000 Kickstarter. And Jerry Skold chimes in and says, shit, we even got comp copies, not as many as promised, but still, from EOS. I'm assuming they're talking about EOS Press, who's responsible for Nobilis and Weapons of the Gods, and its current version, Legends of Wulin, which are pretty good games. Holden says, I've been unsuccessfully chasing after my contract-obligated author copy of Werewolf 20 since 2012. Well,
Jesus Christ.
David Hill says, I tried chasing about 20 of them. They never arrived. I got Woe Is Us emails about shipping to Japan, which I've never had trouble with. Holden says, I was basically told after bringing it up in a meeting, they cost out of pocket now, with an undercurrent of stop asking. David Hill saying, I got a coupon code for one at cost, which expired a week later, for a book I didn't get paid for until heavens know when later. So yeah, Onyx Path has a chronic problem with compensating for the work done for them.
So David Hill basically got an IOU.
And yeah, Jerry Scold is the author for Legends of the Wulin. Jerry continues.
For all that work, all you get is a fucking IOU. What bullshit.
Well, you know what? This is just more evidence of, and we're talking about two different industries. But when it comes to publishing and specifically movies, there are some very fundamental problems. And the core of the issue has to do with this hyper-political gatekeeping mentality that has been allowed to exist within, say, whether you're making movies, whether you're in the publishing industry, regardless of what sort of creative medium you're trying to work in, you find some significant fundamental problems on the business level. If you're talking about publishing, well, you're talking about how much money does it take you to print the story that you want? How much money does it take you to distribute? How much money does it actually take you to promote your product? And you see that same thing to a much greater degree in Hollywood, in movies, where, you know, how much money did it take to produce Solo? It only took this much. Well, how much money did you spend on advertising?
Yeah. That's what pisses me off about that shit. It's like they don't even number crunch what they actually need, but they take that number and they spend like 3 times of that all in fucking advertising. And I bet you dollars to fucking donuts that some of those, that quote unquote advertising dollars, it probably ain't going to advertising anyway.
Yeah. And how much money did they pay? How much money did they pay Donald Glover? Just one actor. How much money did you pay him? How much money did you guys spend on CGI? Not even just that. How much money did Disney spend on trying to acquire the rights to Lucasfilms and the likeness of its characters alone?
And anyway,
yeah, that's my question, though.
Continuing on, because if we go down that rabbit hole, we'll be at this all night.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later.
Well, hey Mildred, can I just say one thing?
30 seconds.
30 seconds, gotcha. The only point I wanted to make by bringing that up is no one who's trying to defend these people, be it Marvel Comics, Disney, whoever, they don't talk about it because they can't. They don't want to talk about it because it just shows how much of a failure they are.
Yeah,
and that's why all of our hobbies are dying.
Yeah, they're becoming more inefficient than the goddamn government.
It's
takes work.
An ironic thing. They don't want to talk about it because they know it will make them look like failures. And to be blunt, if I was in their position, I wouldn't talk about it either because I don't want to look like a failure.
Yeah, really.
But they need they need to at least own it and try to fix things, because it's fairly obvious through the culture war that your political correctness, your dogma is not making you money. So you might want to about face real quick.
Yep. Get woke, go broke.
Let's move on.
Yeah.
Onyx had a chronic problem with compensating for the work done for them, and this features, like I said, Hill, Shearer, and Scold. David Hill is the former lead developer for Changeling: The Lost. I'm holding saying that particular experience does teach a person what it means when the first query or three gets blatantly ignored. At which John Mork steps in and says, "I was there when he acknowledged his contractual obligation to send you an author copy, but implied he wouldn't because it cost him money." Which Shearer says,
"Bullshit.
Half the creative staff were." John Moore saying, "Even though I picked up CCP's contract, that cost comes out of pocket. The implication being he had no money. He was in Italy soon after." Rich T, the CEO, cannot afford to compensate his staff, but can afford lavish vacations for himself, paid by the profits his company made off the work of the developers he will not fulfill his obligations to.
Oh my word.
It goes on, says, "It legit never occurred to me that anyone would assume that the money was going to be the game runner, believe it or not." Hill saying, "That's because we're so used to the money not going to us, whatever the money happens to be." Another one, Howard David Ingham points out, "There was a point where I was literally just writing for a favor, and then they thought they were doing me a favor. Yep, and the awful wages we never know when we'll get. They act like it's shocking people aren't 100% professional about it. It's very important I get my drafts in on time. Meanwhile, we can't even realistically predict what year we'll be paid that money. Also, our conduct at all times represents the company, except it's very important to remember we're contractors and not employees." And Howard going, "I mean, I have not once publicly called them out for this until today." David Hill going, "I've occasionally called them out publicly for really late payments because at times it's the only thing that helps, but that's about it." Basically, this is commenting on a work-for-free culture. As many of Onyx Kickstarter rewards is the developers of the book running a game for you. This costs quite a lot of money, $3,000, and not 1 cent goes to the developers, who have no say on these stretch goals. Later on, it's documented that CEO Rich T would personally insert them over the protests of the developers. They make good money, and Rich T isn't the one who has to do any work.
Oh, jeez. Let me check out that damn Kickstarter link here. That's how much they took in. Richard Thomas. Holy shit! 684,755? What the fuck?
This fucking just makes me want to write a fucking comic book about a transsexual dollar bill that finds itself in Las Vegas in a fucking casino. And a slot machine at that.
For what it's worth, Howard David Ingham has a bunch of different writing credits for Onyx Path. But anyway, Holden goes on to say, "It's the author's comp things that burns me. There's no budget for a book to the authors out of a $500,000 Kickstarter." David Hill, "My beef here was things like netting a few grand for me to run a game for strangers, with 0% of that going to me." And Nick going, "Wait, what? Was that one of the high Kickstarter tiers that promises a dev will run a game?" Yeah, backer pays a few grand, devs run a game for them. Company makes that few grand, dev gets the satisfaction of a job well done. Certainly that's agreed before the tier is made available. Devs get input on reward tiers, but they can be, and in a few cases memorably were, put up despite dev opposition. Those tiers specifically cost shitloads for the dev to run a game. Surely to pay the dev. That sounds pretty logical, doesn't it? How can that be a tier without dev agreement and compensation? My mind is blown and dismayed. We were still hot, and then it goes back to the whole, we were still hot off the Ink Monkeys era where we did like 150,000 words of work for free. We were dumb.
almost $700,000 fucking dollars, and they wouldn't give him at least $3K. You know,
3K was the reward for one of the devs running a game for you.
You know,
who wrote that article?
What this whole expose? These were collected by sponsored by nobody, and they go into further details on some of these, but
fucking Christ, man.
Again, it goes on to the work for hire thing.
You know what? Let me interject, Mildred. I'm gonna say this right now. The people that I'm working with on my fucking project, they're fucking smart. They're asking for money up front at least. Shit. God damn.
And this
Howard Ingham
should have been absurd. What the fuck?
Yeah, Howard David Ingham chimes in and says, and the thing is, I'm inwardly like, dude, I worked for the British government. Don't lecture me unprofessional. Like, really? Like, how about you put out 10 quid for a comp like a proper client and then lecture me about professionalism? Let's see. More about the work for free culture. There, Holden saying there was a lot of do this additional thing as part of your dev work while only being paid per word. Yeah, well, contracted if not paid. And then Holden going, Onyx Path unfollowed me on Twitter. Harsh. Me too. Solidarity. Howard unfollowed them first. And saying, to be honest, refusing to give a single comp copy because it was too expensive when they were underpaying anyway was the final straw. David Hill going, I gave them way too much leeway when they moved to pay after publication, which became pay 3 years later, maybe. Basically, Onyx Path demands tight deadlines, but has a relaxed view on payment. And then David Hill goes on to say, and now multiple flat pay for X words has nebulously become, we'll pay you for Y words we publish, a small fraction of X. Gold going, what the hell is happening? Race to the bottom? So long as they can keep finding cheaper and cheaper talent and people keep buying and buying, they will. The quote-unquote best RPG company in the industry races to the bottom.
Best RPG company in the industry?
I think they spelled Panic wrong because Savage Worlds, from everything that I've heard and everybody I've talked to about it, don't do this shit.
Oh my god. You know what, Mildred? Keep going. I'm gonna go get a drink because this is a lot to fucking digest.
Yeah.
I'll be back.
All right. Somebody called Extra Ghosts says, like I said, man, file off the words and call them Schmidley boops and trademark that shit. Worked for Games Workshop and they're elves. David Hill saying, unfortunately, those 220,000 words are all work for hire. They own it, even if they're not paying for it. David Hill's referring to his work on Changeling the Lost. And saying, and frankly, they're not going to pay me for 3 years of work making a game many have already played and loved. Somebody's saying, with him putting an image that was summed up and saying, someone important at either White Wolf or Onyx Path did not approve of David Hill's Changeling, or at least major parts of it. And honestly, I suspect that someone was likely at White Wolf, not Onyx Path, as Onyx Path would have been far more familiar with David Hill's plans and showed no sign of unhappiness with David Hill's work. And David was extremely generous with playtest blogs to the point where the game was absolutely playable and one of the best lines already. So Onyx Path would have already intervened if they wanted a different direction. And he goes, yeah, right now it looks like I might get a third, maybe, and who knows when. So either they're lying to me or they're lying to everyone. Whether or not it's whoever's to blame on this, it's very much a case of there's no professionalism to be had anywhere in this whole thing.
It just who wrote this article and my mind is frazzled. I don't even know what the hell to say.
Yep. David Hill also points out, but let's be honest, it's because I was one of the only devs still making grandfathered CCP era pay rates. New devs make less than half. Not that that was a great rate to begin with. Which David Hill says, that said, after 10 years and literally the whole millions of words of print, I already covered that. And Howard saying, I got 6 cents per word for my final job for CCP because I demanded it. Cut to 5 for OP. That was the minimum for writers 10 years ago. Let's see. Holden saying, well, apparently I'm refusing to be paid by not chasing every bit of missing compensation across a dozen emails and Skype calls for years. I.e., as it goes on to say, everyone else's responsibility to pay stuff. After Holden and Mork were let go, the CEO has been of the opinion that it's the employee's responsibility to make sure payroll is done competently. Onyx Path is apparently too cheap to do their own payroll and forces the freelancers to chase down every project and ensure payment is sent out. Of course, even if the freelancer follows up several times over the years and is ignored, it cannot be Rich's fault that he doesn't pay his own staff. Jeez. Holden goes, it's not the first time I've gotten thrown through the bus when the company gets a egg on its face, but it will be the last. Glory and hallelujah.
Oh my God.
David Hill's going, OPP is saying they've been handling changeling development for months, not me. That would have been nice to know for those few months. That's a very convenient story, I guess, but you'd think they'd have told me if that were the case. Shrug. I guess that it makes it look like I didn't stop acting as developer less than 2 weeks after White Wolf tired my stalker, which I did. There are plenty of places where I talked about Changeling in February, even a couple times after the Zach announcement. Even a few days after that announcement, I was still answering fan questions as an acting developer. January 25th, I even have an email from a dev who was told by OPP that I'd be busy with Changeling development through February and March. Ironically, that dev was told I might be too busy to take on other work, and apparently I was busy with something I was no longer doing. So generously, the best case scenario is that they decided months ago but never told me and acted like I was still the developer.
Hey guys, don't forget that that January through March and that shrug. 6 cents per fucking word.
Yeah, I got a question for y'all. You ever seen that movie, Who's the Man, from back in the day?
Yeah.
Right now, while I was gone, I was fucking Dennis Leary in that fucking movie.
Oh, there's worse comedians you could be. You could be Louis C.K.
Oh boy.
No, I'm talking about I'm talking about Dennis Leary in that movie when he says, "Your name is Doctor." He takes his nightstick and bangs the fuck out of the radiator as hard as he could. He's like, and hands it back to him. That was me just now.
Yeah. He goes, because if I was pretending to be developers for months despite not being, you'd think they'd acknowledge that publicly at any point. And I'm finding that apparently this was a thing. I was just never told about it and was in fact told otherwise, which is more than a little fucking disgusting. Let's see. Then there's a further bit where David Hill basically took them to task in, it looks like an IRC chat or something, and Rich Thomas, the head of Onyx Path, was basically getting tarred and feathered by everybody, including one person said, "God damn you, Rich Thomas, you keep making me hate myself." Holden saying, "I just want to repeat in clear and unambiguous language, I raised the issue of my Werewolf 20 comp in a Skype meeting in front of half of the developers, including my specifically memory, John, Neil Prince, and I think Dave B was there, but I wouldn't attest to it in court. I remembered Neil specifically because he'd been newly elevated to Scion Dev, and he talked a lot during the call, and was basically told by Rich that I was just not going to get my comp because it would cost him money, despite that it was in my contract. Lisa has been on staff for years and years and years. She's the one who lost the second Exalted writer pay schedule and told me I hadn't sent it to her, and then managed to find it when I was like, yeah, I did. I sent it on dates. Also, let me state this too in the plainest English I can craft. I can't submit a pay schedule without a contract, and they refuse to give me contracts repeatedly. This is Rich passing the buck and making it everyone else's job to chase him for money and books. If you don't immediately turn over all those drafts that we still haven't issued you a contract for, we will be forced to assume you quit the project and start it over from scratch. And by scratch, we mean just plugging in the missing pieces of your own personal drafts for the sections you were writing, but otherwise using all the work you developed over the last year just without compensation or credit. Because that's the first thing they did once we were out the door, and is email all the freelancers and demand their drafts, which is honestly fine if only they'd pay us. I've got a new game. Now Holden is going through this and just taking them the task that they're just passing the buck. And apparently, one thing that was highlighted was Holden saying, because OPP's pure bureaucratic overhead has always been a clown car flying up a cliff on fire. One statement from Holden and on the topic thing: certain demands were made of the publishing schedule going forward that weren't compatible with what we signed up to do, and we were giving instructions for turning in material I wasn't comfortable with, given that we were still owed both outstanding money for work done and have been for over a year, with issues of deadlines, timelines that couldn't possibly be matched. And it goes on for quite a bit.
Yeah, I'm looking at this imager here, and it's like it goes on and on and on and on.
Fans reached out to Exalted 3rd Edition map creator Jared Blando. According to him, OPP has halted him selling the work he did on the Exalted 3rd Edition book when the Exalted 3rd Edition book had not come out yet. They also would not pay him until it was released. The artist did work, was not compensated for over 3 years, and at the same time was not allowed to sell physical copies of his own work during that time. It all depends on how much my work gets stolen. From John Moore. The EX3 Solars established a core of gradual effects that produce lore in setting and playing characters, a gradual exploration of character power through addictive gaming. That's the way it reads to me. They will produce books on a crank, or some nebulous ends will come. There is an or else hanging over their heads, and that or else involves loss of work, I promise you, even if it means the cancellation of Exalted, which is in Rich's Prey book. My guess is Rich would pray for people to forget about it and then try and bring it back after a while. He needs Exalted for the money, so he's forcing them to turn to crank. But he doesn't have any leverage on Vance or Minton. So I'm guessing the implication is some dire result for the game line, since I expect if he started telling them they're going to lose their jobs, they wouldn't be working this hard. He was nice to Holden and myself at first when he needed us. He made all the promises in the world, including that we would keep all the money left over from the Kickstarter. Let's see, something else is highlighted when it comes to Rich, Thomas, and Imperfection. Aquilion saying, I mean, we've seen Rich go off the handle in forum, so it's pretty clear he's like this. But yes, I agree stretch goals generally suck and often result in time or money being wasted on stuff that nobody, not even most of the donors, really wanted. Or on stuff that seemed like a good idea at the time but clearly isn't working out. See, a bunch of goes on more with professionalism. And then a post from Lucy Darling, who was one of the writers. I think. And let me go with the first point. Over the following shots, Lucy Darling establishes her credentials and experience in the professional writing industry. In this post from the Onyx Path forums, she details the nature of work changing means writers get paid for the work they've done so far. If a project is canceled, the work reverts to the writer if they do not get paid. Extra work for social media, promotion, or perhaps running a game for Kickstarter backers are compensated and not free. She describes an environment that does not exist within the Onyx Path company scheme, where free work is mandatory if you wish to be paid for the work you have already done under contract. It's responding to someone who's saying, it sounds fair and even-handed to say both sides at a point, but sometimes they really, really don't. Lucy says, not in my experience. Every other writing job I've worked on has gotten me contracts well before things were drafted, least of all published, for example. And when it was per word, but word count required changing, I was paid for the words I wrote, not the number they estimated. And if I needed a new contract because situations changed, I got it. If something changed mid-cycle, I got notified. Even when the publishing house itself went through major restructuring, I still got paid, still got contracts, still got communicated with. Put it this way. A friend of mine edited a book that missed external deadlines, so got canned. She still got paid. Her contract got reissued to reflect the changing circumstances, and she got paid for the work she did. I had a short story in a collection after I signed a contract with the publishing house, changed streams, and dropped the book while still publishing in the area. I did not get paid but all rights were reverted to me. I can shop the story around whenever I want, and they will not use my work, nor the editor's work, nor outlines for other collections, or research that we did. Because their contract does allow it, and that shit is does not allow it, and that shit is unethical. You get paid by the word, and then all you get is the words, and you best have a contract to support that before you start clawing in drafts. And if you require the writers to do promotion/comms management, that ought to be reflected in the pay too. This is more of a wiggle point, and I will admit, in terms of promotion. Comms management is unique to RPGs, but I will admit one hopes there are procedures for when your people are being stalked and harassed online, the way most businesses with internet-facing comms should. That's a sore point for me, I admit. Admin makes or breaks a company. I still write with the people I write with, but that bit was not really an issue. Admin, though, I rolled with a lot of shit that doesn't fly elsewhere, and most of my work is in academics, where we aren't even friggin' paid for the writing bit unless we have tenure. Being paid late is pretty standard, I'll admit that. RPG standards are not in any way akin to regular publishing in my experience, and without serious trust in the people I work with, it's an experiment I am unlikely to delve into again. I'm just too organized and admin-centric to deal with these shenanigans, and I don't have any loyalty to a game line to bolster dealing with that level of stuff at work. He goes on to say, since I am talking from the point of view of novels, short story, nonfic, and so on, which is just stuff I have actual experience writing and publishing, not hearsay and imagination, I'm here to tell you that you're a bit all over the place. Because novels aren't paid by the word, for one thing. You write a novel, you get paid for a novel. That's true. And the way it works currently is that all the work got front-loaded. You're being paid after you do the work. at least the beginning for most people. Short stories are fuzzier. It's by the word, but for a range. Still mostly paid post-writing. And you just don't get in if the story sucks, / doesn't meet the spec of the anthology, if your editor is any good anyway. If it needs editing, it gets edited, and you still get paid by the word. If you get contracted for work like this, hand some shit in past deadline, you might get a cut fee. You might not. Your work might go through the ringer and get edited up. It might not. But if it is going to get used, you're going to get paid. And if you get a contract when you get signed on, unless you've got a handshake deal. Nonfic depends on market. Mags and newspaper have brutal word counts and limits that will hack your stuff to pieces if necessary. Longer form depends on market. What doesn't happen is that you edit it, the cut stuff gets used elsewhere, and you don't get paid because it got cut, and you got paid for the first 3,000, not anything after. That's how you get sections that don't make sense. That's how you got references to bits that got cut elsewhere. That's how you got shit. We didn't cover X in your write-up, and you can add that in. And could you add that in, please? Resulting in either everything being cut past the bone to fit word count, or writers not getting paid. And it isn't so much demanding how much as, say, issuing a contract for the things you agreed on, because handshake deals don't suffice anymore. A contract isn't just about how much you get paid. It's things like other fees, protections, deadlines, contingency plans, and so on. Also, talking from the POV of someone who has seen drafts, so they haven't produced anything is, not to put too fine a point on it, bullshit. John and Holden were producing work. They were planning stuff. It didn't make it to you, the consumer, but it was being made and being written. And some of it being shit is likely on the writer, which, given the fact that it's a team effort and you're reading drafts, that is unsurprising in the least. And the devs are paid by the word they have to work on, which was part of throwing shit into the fire when it was bad, and wrangling writer ego anxiety about it too. I mean, I am in the enviable position of seeing a bunch of the lost material, but hey, that's a perk of being merged with them, not about my writing. The background information for this response is that Holden and Mork's work that they did an Exalted 3rd Edition core that was being cut and is being uncompensated, and furthermore taken and released into official Exalted material they are not being paid for. And Lucy explained how in real businesses that's unheard of. And he said the lowest rate I ever got for erotica works out to 5 cents a word, and that's less BS overhead. And what Onyx Path apparently only does like 1 or 2 cents a word, not the 5 or 6 that's more or less an industry standard. Despite the fact that Rich Thomas claims that he pays their people some of the best wages in the industry. Lucy goes on to say, my experience writing erotica and writing RPGs could not be more different. I worked with some of the bigger names in each field in Savage Poetry. Erotica, working with people like Violet Blue met solid pay and prompt responses. Same with Allison Tyler, even when shit happened to projects. Games, though, the bigger the name, the more you're expected to do for free and get shit on while doing it, all while scraping the barrel pay. And in all seriousness, I made so much more writing smutty fuckfics than anything I would get in RPGs working for the big boys. And I had to deal with less creepers, less inappropriate fans, backseat editors, and misogyny, while writing porn. Let that settle in. More RPG fans wrote horribly sexually inappropriate shit about RPG work than Veronica's did of fuckfic. It does sound like she's got a little bit of the Kool-Aid, but at the same time, some of the I can't really blame her for some of the stuff.
Hey Mildra, you might want to check your sound. You're cutting off a little bit. It's like you're talking underwater, dude.
God damn it! Did I fuck up half of that because of those issues? I really hope not.
Yeah, because you're like It's like you're like going into focus, and all of a sudden it's like you're diving underwater, like into the 12-foot end of the pool.
God damn it!
Now you're coming in clear now.
Just as you say.
God
damn it, Google.
Yeah. But I see what you're saying. So this guy apparently this guy, whoever this idiot is, whoever this guy is, he's like saying, "Oh, I get paid to write freaking to write erotica than I ever did in RPGs."
Lucy Darling is her name. Not sure if it's her real name. It could just be a pen name, but still.
But of course she had to throw in the fucking misogyny thing. But unless it's proven that Rich T is doing this, and given that how Mike Bashad was, that could be the case.
Yeah. So basically, let's see. Accomplished and professional writer moved out of the industry by unethical business practices and problematic behavior from management. And supposedly it's shitheads like us that are running women out of gaming.
Bullshit. Jesus Christ.
Yep.
Man, there's a lot of shit to take in here.
Mm-hmm. There's the whole thing of Rich apparently threatening developers' jobs.
Threatening their jobs that they're not getting paid for.
When Rich hates you, he's going to talk to you like you're an idiot who doesn't deserve to have an opinion, supposedly. So every piece of art he ever turned out personally for Exalted Third looked like a big pile of dog turds with cast marks. The less involved Rich is with Exalted, the better the product is. Which probably explains why Godbound was such a good RPG, because it's basically Exalted done by another company.
I'm shocked he didn't even take him to court.
Well, it's using the same kind of notes that Exalted does thematically, but it's not using the same system, and it's not even using anything similar. And the whole empowered demigod thing, they don't own that.
I bet you 10 to 1 that the guys behind Exalted, the developers that actually did some work are Holden and them, and then they probably sold that shit behind his back.
Well, they don't have, again, work for hire, so they don't have that right. But I know, but I found this out shortly after a bunch of the Exalted podcasts that I was listening to switched over to Godbound by Cine Nominate Publishing, who also does Stars Without Number, which is pretty damn good. He goes, every single piece of art that Rich produced for Exalted 3rd Edition was ridiculed. People hated his artistic contributions, so he probably feels like a has-been. Getting the initial art note for the game, he sat on his ass for the next 8 months. Eventually, he produced some signature doodles that were so fucking awful, we discarded them entirely. And Mel and I designed the Sig characters in a stream jam session. It took us about 6 hours. Mel was not paid for said session, only the end product art pieces that were published. And we were disallowed from hiring an artist to further jam session design new dragon-blooded signature characters. There's a picture contaminating the EX3 core that looks like macaroni art of Wolfer playing chess. You should ask him about it sometime and see how big of a fireback you get. Yeah, thanks. Apparent. Oh my God. Then there's the whole thing of him, Rich T forcing Kickstarter stretch goals that other people will have to work on for free.
You're underwater again, dude.
Am I still underwater?
Not bad as it was a second ago.
This is what I get for being in a state with 10,000 lakes. and the Mississippi. Somebody called out Rich T about the when it came to the symbols thing. He got really defensive, saying, "Seriously, you couldn't let us have fun with the new symbols without basically telling me I wasted 3 weeks of work redesigning them?"
What work?
Rich Thomas, professional. Another person, Wolver called him out, and he says, "That's a lovely interpretation, but simply not what's said. Be perfectly honest. I like the more Mesoamerican look in general, but this cleaned up look for a cover is nice. Does not contain anything in the sentiment meaning that you're reading into it. In a thread that was about deciphering the glyphs and where I thought it might help folks to know that there had been deliberate changes as to why. There was no reason to apply any sort of critical commentary. None." With Deathstream saying, "Rich, don't you think you're overacting a little bit?" He said he preferred the other look. That's barely criticism. I don't see why you're so pissed off about it. His response, "Because there is no need for any criticism here. I don't care if he or everyone prefers the old glyphs. That's not the issue. The issue is posting about it in a thread that isn't about opinions or the look of the glyphs. When other exalted fans tell you they don't post in this forum because they're afraid of getting ripped apart, that they feel like anything here just gets hyper-criticized, then that is a problem, and this right here is an example of it. I'm trying not to post this in a way that directly attacks anyone, but just look at the defensive behavior going on because I didn't just laugh it off but protested as a creator. Jeez, talk about a fucking salt mine."
Jesus fucking wept. Yeah, this is a major salt mine there. Shit. That'll probably go for your more than enough to fill the entire theater of popcorn and fries.
Mm-hmm. And one other person saying the only thing that's you basically somebody saying the only thing that soured this thread is you acting up. And saying the most common complaint I hear about this forum and what kept me from joining after the switch over from White Wolf was hearing that idea or posts made that weren't quote unquote good advertising were unwelcome, that this place is a glorified poster child for selling product rather than a community of fans with differing opinions and ideas. It is distasteful. Rich T replies, "You're ignoring my reasons and instead are repeatedly attacking me and our forum moderation policies, all because I objected to a comment I felt was unnecessary and essentially thread crapping. Sorry. Yes, the reaction here and elsewhere to our changes has been uniformly positive, which has been awesome. But even then, we've had to stop a few posters from falling back up to old habits because we absolutely do not want a forced set of developers driven from our own forums. This should be home base for our creators where they can trade ideas with our most devoted, exalted fans." Short version, you're not listening to me, and if you don't advertise my product correctly, you are then attacking me personally and not allowed on my forum.
Jesus Christ.
And Zid says, "Welcome to the internet, Rich. Might I suggest if you're going to pop into the threads about your own work that you first takes time to do some of the following activities. A, work on your guitar fretting. B, walking barefoot outside. C, washing dishes with a coarse scrubber. E, ritualistic self-flagellation. All these activities are known to thicken your skin. It'll help you decide when to poke your head into places where people specifically congregate to give their opinions about stuff you created." Which he says, it's the internet, grow thicker skin. Well, one word for that. No, that's a well-worn excuse for bad behavior, and it doesn't fly here. The fact that this thread was not about giving opinions, but about translating them is actually my point. I'm going to ask the mods to close this one down, because folks are right when they post about this being a tangent to the main idea of translating the glyphs. And we'll start a new one with that topic.
Okay, I just looked up Lucy Darling's Twitter. I was gonna let her know to throw out the hashtag for the stream, but then I realized she's a fucking SJW, so I was like, okay, I
kind of figured. Given the gender roles thing I saw in that anniversary version of Mage, I'm not surprised at all.
Yeah, I was like, I was gonna have her listen along. Hopefully, hopefully see if she wants to throw her 2 cents in. But if she's going to go for, but the fact that, like I said, after hearing all that and retweeting Crambunitz and fucking John Scalzi, it's like hard fucking pass.
Oh, by the way, Zid, the guy who did the Welcome to the Internet, Rich, he got permabanned after that.
Jesus Christ. Permabanned from the Exalted forums?
From the Onyx Path forums, period.
Oh! Talk about salty.
And he decided to do a boilerplate response over the whole thing, saying, hey, folks, here's the thing. We want you to feel free to come to these forums and talk about Exalted stuff, critique, loud, and complain. And for a very long time, I've been of the mind that because of the delays on Exalted 3, posters here should be given more leeway to vent their frustration over the situation. Unfortunately, that has now led to a new situation where once a week someone posts something from my weekly blog post and multiple arguments break out, insults are hurled, and somebody demands an apology from me, and then we close the thread. Can you complain? Yes, you can. But as you all know, if you really want to talk about improving a problem you see, the almost immediate acceleration from stating a concern to accusations and insults shuts down any chance that the very people who can gain from you voicing your concerns will actually listen. Rants and vitriol as standard operating procedure are not acceptable. Pouncing each and every week on every piece of info with an eye towards how it proves how we're fucking you over is not conducive to communication. For my part, the amount of abuse I or my team have taken with each and every update here or to Kickstart backers has reached the point where I really don't want to share progress with any of you. That is how I feel. But I know there are plenty of fans or backers out there who have not participated in the comments that have caused this accumulated feeling. And you can see a lot of folks here trying to do their best to be patient and appreciate the complexity of trying to get Exalted Third out to all of you. That can't be easy, and I truly appreciate each and every one of you who has made that effort. Your posts have kept me posting and from just sharing nothing until we have a PDF ready. So we can't keep going like this, and if I'm going to continue to share the progress or lack thereof, depending on the week and topic, of the Exalted Third book and line, then change must happen in different ways in order that these forums be a place where folks can once again feel like they can read and participate in interesting discussions about a game we all love. I'm not going to set up any more rules here than we already have in these forums, but expect the rules to be enforced with less concern for your situation and more for the overall good of the forum. In other words, the greater good. The greater good. Shut it! In addition, if you're clearly waiting each week to pick apart the update, and yes, the mods and I and half the posters here can tell that is what is happening, then expect to be given time away from these forums. As always, I know and deeply regret how frustrated you are. That is not the issue. You don't need me to tell you you have a right to feel how you are feeling. But so you know, I do not respect that, and I'm not telling you all to get over it. Sorry, I do respect that, and I'm not telling you to get over it. What I am saying is that there are constructive and destructive ways to express yourself, and here in these forums, you need to be aware of what kind of posting you're doing. Thanks. So, in other words, he wants it to be a place where it is a safe space for people to comment on his game, and yet when people are actually actively giving him criticism, he wants to get ridiculously defensive. Welcome to the internet. Have a seat.
Jesus fucking Christ. Ugh. There are no fucking good actors in this whole thing.
Yep, he continues in saying he basically is trying to defend the music suite for Exalted that nobody really asked for, and yet at the same time he keeps hearing that they don't have enough money to pay people decently, and his response to the hang on, let me. Okay, just wanted to make sure on something. He says again, not a waste of money if it allows other people to access Exalted Third and they begin buying the books. No stretch goal is for everyone. The idea is to create a series of projects that appeal to more than one type of person who might enjoy Exalted Third. And again, we pay our creative folks what we can afford to pay, which is better than most in this business. Bullshit. On a company-wide level, not per book. Nice save. A single Kickstarter does not enable everyone to get raises, so the stretch goals have not a thing to do with our pay rates. And our pay rates have not a thing to do with how Exalted Third has been handled, nor how the supplements are going. I didn't hire Holden and John because they were cheap. I hired them because they had and still have a vision on how to recreate Exalted, and I agreed with and believe in. Some truly awful life events have smashed into their efforts to bring that vision to everyone through the projects they are working on, but they are still committed to getting on top of the work needed to delivering the upcoming books. Less than 9 months after this was posted, Rich Thomas, owner of Onyx Path Publishing, would fire Holden and Mork after paying them far below industry standards for years and after extracting years of unpaid extra work. He also claims to be above average employer and pay writers more than what's standard. And at the same time expecting professionalism. At which point Sancta Franks, who, surprise, surprise, is banned, says, no, a pay first Rich says, no, a pay bump to Exalted Third itself was part of the Exalted Third Kickstarter. Twice, I think. In fact, rates are ongoing things that apply across the company for all the work a freelancer does. Sancta replies, apologies, I missed that distinction, mostly because it doesn't matter to what I'm saying here. You apparently didn't pay the writers enough to have that right to expect professionalism. Unsurprisingly, the resulting book took years longer than you expected it to. In fact, it's still not fully out. I suspect your lousy employment practices are partially responsible, and treating your employees a bit better would have helped a lot. Rich goes, if a freelancer posts that their pay rate caused problems with delivering a project, that's their legitimate personal take on that situation. When we say that there is a difference between full-time creative staffs and teams of freelancers that are doing their RPG work as a second or third job, which is most of our folks, and this can cause problems, pay rates are not usually the issue. Usually is available time. The time restraints are direct, at which Sancta responds, the time constraints are a direct result of not being paid enough to spend less time on other jobs.
Oh my god.
And the admin.
And he gets banned.
Yep.
Jesus Christ.
With the mod saying, I'm done entertaining the personal attacks against Rich and the developers. The appeal information is in the terms of use if you wish to appeal this decision, but as of now, you are banned from this site.
Oh, you know what? Let me talk in the soy talk here. You mind if I do this in the soy talk? Yeah. I'm done entertaining the personal attacks against Rich and the developers. The appeal information in the terms of use if you wish to appeal this decision, but as of right now, you are banned from this site.
It just sounded like a triggered Cartman from South Park.
Exactly. That's how some of these fucking soy boys they talk. If you think about it, because they all sound like they're talking on some fucking helium. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And they also got, and some of them even got that list. Hence, that's why I have the soy talk for.
Jesus Christ.
Apparently, this is a common thread that's been a growing trend mentioned in the Kickstarter backers comment section. Many backers complained of being banned from the OPP forum after asking for more status updates and accountability when the Exalted 3rd Edition Kickstarter ran 4 years overdue. They began congregating on the Kickstarter comment board because as paying backers, Rich T was unable to silence them. He has since gone on record that he no longer interacts with the backer community because it has, quote, no value.
No value? The guys that gave you $700,000 has no fucking value? What kind of bullshit is this?
And apparently there is a reference thread solely for constructive criticism.
Oh my god!
Somebody named Dragon Mystic made a lengthy post about constructive criticism, and he said this thread is intended to be a collection, a collation of criticisms and opinions. All of this has been said before, but is dispersed and hard to find. And said rules for posters: 1, don't make this the battleground. 2, don't attack people behind the opinions. 3, this is intended to be a reference, not a full discussion thread. 4, everyone has a different design philosophy. Your way isn't instantly the right way. Respect that. You go, and these were his grievances. First, editing and size, with the core book being massive, and then natural language. I've seen a lot of complaints about using natural language in charms and rules descriptions. It's not exactly my forte in describing, but I would agree that rules need to be as clear and encompassing as possible.
This reads like a congressional bill.
Then the charm tree lengths. Craft's number of charms dwarfs other abilities. Keeping it simple-ish. We are not computers. We have a limited amount of focus we can keep in our heads, and keeping track of individual numbers can get muddled and confusing. Every time you add in a variable, it has a geometric or exponential effect, trying to keep other things straight during play. This is my major complaint against the craft system. It adds in a lot of number crunching and variables for seemingly no purpose. He goes, my prime example for this is the martial arts prerequisite. I understand the need for XP balancing, but this is the weirdest way to go about it I have seen in a long time. It feels like a hack or a mod. You have to buy dots in a different ability, spend bonus points on a merit, which has always been the super optional customization for veteran players section in my mind, and mine, to be allowed to buy different dots in a different ability before you can buy charms. WTF? Just do something like sorcery and have a gatekeeping charm. Make a minor charm for mortals to learn if you have to, but overall keep it consistent and straightforward. Don't go crossing all these sub-modules that are supposed to be independent. Unified design, or put it simple, rule simplification. For the like of me, I do not understand why sorceress workings and long-term craft projects use different subsystems. They're pretty similar in how they work, but just different enough that you have to pay attention. My question is, why? What are you meaning on having them be different systems? If I had my system, I would take sorcerer's workings, generalize it a bit, and say, hey, this is the abstracted mechanics for doing any long-term project. Building armies, taking over kingdoms, building a social web of intrigue, etc. And lastly, feedback on open development. His response was one person saying, let's not do this right now. His response saying, on the contrary, this seems the perfect time to do it. And then Rich decides to jump in and say, I have to agree with Ekoren. Even with an assumption that this is well-meaning, it comes off as a list of grievances. I assure you the new devs, as well as the Onyx Path crew, are well aware of the points you make here. Let's give them some room to breathe in their new positions. So he was just trying, and then one of the mods jumps in and says, agreed, thread locked. And then the other mod, Charlequin, who banned that other guy, said, I'm going to have to agree with Rich on this one. The social climate surrounding Exalted has been too volatile of late for a thread of grievances, however well-meaning to be a good idea. In light of the new developers, we do have an Ask the Devs thread, which is a healthier and less contentious way to facilitate open communication between the fan community and the developers. I recommend people use it with an open mind and attitude of seeking to better understand developer choices than to complain about choices you disagree with. But Dragon Mystic was not done. He went into the place where he supposedly is supposed to, with a thread saying, upset about criticism thread being locked. I'm pretty upset my criticism thread got locked. Every time I brought up complaints about 3E with the past devs, they and the Formice would jump down my throat and personally attack me for having those opinions. I really wanted to start this era of development on a better foot. I don't expect the developers to agree with everything I or others on the forums have to say, but I wanted to make sure that this time around it actually felt like we were being listened to, not to be blocked and locked up like this. A game line can't live on in an echo chamber. You said the devs are aware of our complaint. That's good to hear how, but there hasn't been feedback or responses beforehand. so it's hard to trust that they actually are. Everyone has a different vision of what Exalted should be. I want to be able to express that, and that means complaining about what we see as not working right. Rich T responds, you were told the reasons it was a bad idea. Now it just seems you're ignoring those for your self-interest versus the good of our Exalted community. It is our decision to create a positive atmosphere on the forums so the new devs have a chance to feel like it's okay to spend time here. Right now, we're getting the Exalted third line back on track. We're not fixing the rulebook to your preferences. Your post comes across more like complaints about work already done than about where the new devs are taking things into the future. His response, and he saying, I'm concerned when positive atmosphere, quote unquote, means locking down threads. I can at least understand it during this transition point, but I hope it's not of things to come. Constructive criticism is necessary for a healthy ecosystem. I suspect a lot where my complaints come from a root that can affect the whole line, not just the core book. I suspect it's from either a lack of a main editor or one that does not have the power to change things. From my untrained eye, it seems like the 3E core was just put together with people very involved in each section, very attuned to their own thing, but without someone who looked at the whole picture and how it all interacts together. If that core problem isn't fixed, then, well, it'll hobble along until the next edition. As much as I want to, I know I can't get the 3E core fixed. But I would love it if I can at least get people in charge to acknowledge that it does have problems. At the very least, that other people might have problems with it. Out of my entire circle of friends who have played Exalted or expressed interest in it, none have remained with the Exalted mechanics, some not with Exalted at all. Either that, or they've run in disgust from the actions of the forums and worse, the devs themselves. From my position, I can't tell if that's a general trend or not, but it certainly doesn't seem to be an isolated incident. You can't please everyone, but you can at least know where they're coming from. I'm not here to sabotage Exalted. I love the lore. I've done webcomics set in the universe. I've tried my hand at writing up the memorials, a fan splat. It doesn't make me anyone special, but hopefully it'll show my enthusiasm. I just want to actually play Exalted, using Exalted rules, and not feel like I'm trudging through a slog. This apparently was a PM that Dragon Mystic had leaked, saying he uses the same conversational tactic he's used against several members over the years documented. You're not listening to me, and if you don't advertise my product correctly, you're not allowed on my forums. Are all these users suffering the same willing ignorance, or is Rich displaying a pattern of behavior repeated by dozens of backers, people who have willingly given him money in the hope that it would trickle down to the writers, artists, and developers of Onyx Path? Community members who get censored or banned based on Rich T not being able to handle the briefest of criticism of art preference, and even coworkers and staff members who document profanity-laced emails threatening behavior and refusal to follow through on their contractual obligations. Before you back another Onyx Kickstarter or purchase their products in hope of supporting your favorite authors and artists, please consider these stories and decide for yourself if the ethics of Rich T and Onyx Path's behavior will ensure those people are fairly compensated.
Oh my fucking word! And you know, he even called him out on being a fucking echo chamber. That's it's like, at the same time, I can't really sympathize with him because he's doing the same bullshit himself. But it's like their self-awareness level is pretty much absolute zero.
Mm-hmm.
It's like triple digits Kelvin.
Oh yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Shortly after this was initially constructed, it was expanded upon with a conversation with Matthew McFarland, who was a long-standing White Wolf and Onyx Path writer and developer. He worked on Demon the Assault, and not the Assault, the Descent, and creator of Perfect Darkness. Okay, so I'm still interested in doing this post. I'm actually working on it as I can, but I can fill a couple details for you now. They aren't going to help much, though. Exalted was, to the best of my understanding, a clusterfuck almost from start to finish. But not all of that was the fault of Onyx Path or Rich. The whole mess started when CCP was still in charge, for one thing, so some of the initial problems started there. I know that much, and from there we slip into speculation and hearsay because I personally wasn't involved in Exalted on any level, and I'm really reluctant to comment on events I personally don't know about. Let's say this, because it's the point that comes up again. For a good long while, developers, even freelancers, which was pretty much all of us, wrote contracts for authors and for themselves. There's a template for that. But one of the big problems OPP had, this is improving, but it's still a problem, is training their devs. I've personally taken on that work in a couple of instances, telling new freelancers devs the procedural stuff so they know that the process for making books is how to write contracts and so forth. Now, one of the things that's changed recently is that all contracting is done in-house, so that's not a problem. At the beginning of a project, the devs sends OPP a list of all the writers on the book, their word count, their word rate, and then OPP generates the contract. If there's a change in the contract, like an author drops out, which happens not infrequently, particularly on bigger projects, then you just let OPP know and they adjust or reissue contracts as needed. But before that was procedure, you had developers like me, or David, or Holden, who basically had carte blanche to muck about with word counts and contracts. We couldn't do anything too out there, like giving someone a higher word rate, because that would have been noticed. But if we did something like, say, not give someone a contract, or give them one but then not countersign it or turn it in, or refuse to sign our own contract, it puts OPP in a difficult position if something goes wrong. That's about all I can say about contracting as it pertains to Exalted, because again, I didn't work on it. On the subject of comps, that's something I've argued with Rich about for a long time. Comps are expensive, but they're expensive because they print everything POD and their books are huge. If they did offset print runs like I do for Growling Door, the per unit cost would go down and they could afford to send comps to authors. Remember, you're never just sending out one comp. Some of these books had like 15 authors and 8 artists, and each of those books can be $30, $40 easily. That's not insignificant, even if you're sitting on a lot of Kickstarter money. As for Rich taking lavish vacations, look, I'd be really careful about making those kind of accusations. David, Holden, John, me, we're freelancers. We don't know a damn thing about Rich's finances. We don't even know the details of the licensing agreement between Onyx Path and CCP, and now Paradise. There's literally no way to know how Rich is paying for anything. In closing, for now, yes, OPP should find a way to give their authors and contributors comp copies. Yes, they should pay more. Yes, Exalted was something of a clusterfuck from the administrative end of things. No, OPP is not deliberately trying to withhold monies that are owed to people. And indeed, Rich has said publicly more than once, if OPP owes you money, to contact him so he can make it right. For what it's worth, I've never had a problem getting myself and my paid or my authors paid. But then I follow all the procedures, contract people properly, and turn stuff in on time.
Oh, by the way, Doku ski-daddled.
Yeah, I kind of figured that. That was going to happen. I
was going to say it's getting a bit late for me now. I was going to skedaddle.
Yeah, but
I think we've been going on for about 2 hours, haven't we?
Yeah. Most of this is like reading all this stuff, but so basically this is like I'm reading ahead here, and Jesus Christ. And
yeah.
this company, I would like to reiterate, got $700,000, close to that.
Yeah. And well, before we wrap it up, I would like to know what your guys' final thoughts is on that whole debacle. Because yes, this took place a year. This did take place a year ago, but Onyx Path continues the virtue signal, and I thought it'd be, given what happened with Channel Awesome, I thought it'd be apropos to bring up a similar incident.
Okay, I'll give you my thoughts right here. You know, when I first decided to get into Ronin. Okay, when I first started doing this thing, I made a point that, like I said, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this right. I'm going to do this to the best of my ability, and I'm going to do this ethically. What these motherfuckers are doing is pretty much the exact opposite of what my ethos is when I'm designing a project. How now the question I'm trying to ask here is, how on earth do these motherfuckers get that much fucking money in Kickstarter?
Exalt is a very, very popular IP from White Wolf. Especially since it caught on very well during its second edition because they partnered up with Udon to do a comic. And keep in mind they did this right in that mid 2000s era when the anime boom was really catching up. And the I know this is a little out of your element, Flatmeister, but what's your take on the whole affair?
I'm not fully versed in everything that's happened, so I can't really give an opinion. Really, sorry about that.
Nope, no worries.
I'll have to read up on it a bit more.
Yeah, the link is in the chat if you're curious. And when this is done, I'm going to add the link into the thing, as well as a link to when the podcast sponsored by Nobody had talked about the whole affair. I do have to give props to Tanner Margolo because he was the guy who first pointed this out to me. For me personally, this is a consequence of that whole work for exposure attitude that's permeated the industry for a long time. And I would not be surprised if this is not an isolated case in other large companies, especially in Wizards of the Coast. Yeah. I would not be surprised at all if there's a bunch of people who are acting like that, especially since Monty Cook was originally going to be one of the developers for D&D 5th edition, but for reasons that I haven't been able to find out because he doesn't want to talk about it, he fucked off, went independent, did a Kickstarter for Numenera, got that published, and has just rolled on with that and leading up to releasing the Cypher system.
Oh my god! And I'm going to reiterate. The people that I'm working with for this fucking thing, I'm gonna tell you this: they are far smarter than these fucking ham and eggers, because at least they're asking for fucking money up front.
Yep, this
is just ridiculous.
But I think that'll be where we'll end it. Next week we'll have something a little less depressing.
I wouldn't call this depressing. I would call this rage-inducing.
Yeah.
I swear to Christ. If you check out that link on that Discord, that's my exact feelings right now.
Dennis Leary smashing the
radiator with a billy club.
Yeah, but until now, as always, next Wednesday I'll be continuing the Second City with the RVT crew. Thursday will of course be the Stream of Corruption, and Friday, unless something happens, will be a bit more world building for the RPG with Routes and Company, and of course on Sunday will be Monastery Live number 5. And it'll be a little bit more fun. I'm not going to do anything more serious. It's just going to be a celebration of all things stupid, and in equal measure. But until then, on behalf of the departed Doku, on behalf of the Master, the Flatpack Flatmeister, and on behalf of the giant head of the internet, Aaron, my name is Mildra. And until next week,